Do you want to show Frankie Rizzle? Hi. Hi, good boy.
Hello.
Hey, this is Rizzo. We're just looking after him at the moment. He's going to get picked up in a sec, but
Hey, Rizzo.
Oh,
Have you been walking with him? Is that what you do? Take him for a walk?
yeah, well, he kind of hangs out at ours sometimes when his mum has work to get done. So, hi.
yeah.
There's a dog.
Hey, Rizzo.
Hey there, handsome.
This is Rizzo.
You, Rizzo.
Ah,
Boy.
don't think he knows what to make of this.
Understandable. All very overwhelming. Hi, Jonathan. Nice beard, as always.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right. Not so bad. Plodding along. How are you?
Yes. Good, good. Well, lockdown, but good.
Yeah. Are you in an attic? Are you in an attic room there? Because I'm seeing the sloping ceiling. Yeah. I guess you were.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It can be pretty cool because you get a good view if you out the window often.
I'm gonna mute all my notifications because that'd be a good idea. You can mute, and you can mute, and you can mute. Okay. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. How are you? Oh, that's
Good. How are you?
yeah, good. Thanks.
Good.
I enjoyed your last night very much. I've just finished
Good.
watching it.
Glad to hear it. It was very fun to do. Yes. Got a mysterious E. I'm not sure who that is. You doing some crafting?
Yeah, I'm early stage.
Ooh, cute.
It's going to be a bow. It's going to be like turn into like a little Japanesey scene for my auntie. So who is into that? So
Very nice. Very nice. Well done.
what have you been up to?
Did some work. Prepared for Cyrano chapter part 3. Made some food. What did I make today? Don't know. Prep some bread to make tomorrow. Oh, Andrada, you're echoing. I know it's only you.
It wasn't only me. Jonathan echoed once.
Lies. Damn lies.
Oh, Duncan.
Hello. I
Hello.
just managed to catch up on the first 2 episodes, so I've come to join
Nice. Hope you enjoyed them.
I did. It's nice to see a terrible woman in one of our stories to join the long parade of terrible men.
But there's an extremely terrible man to just surpass that.
There is a terrible man. I'm used to the terrible men now. Like I've accepted their existence in the stories. But I did feel that we were getting completely unbalanced by the entire lack of terrible women.
Roxanne's not terrible. She's just silly.
No, if you gender swapped this, then we would be considering her an utterly terrible man. I feel.
Not sure. Thank you. Hey,
Who's the mysterious E?
Hmm?
Who is the mysterious E?
Oh, E.
Yes. Oh, hey, Sean.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, Ashra. Ashra, am I pronouncing that right? Oh, everyone logging in now. Hey, Lyric. Hi. Hi. Hey, people.
I know, darling, it's a disaster.
Hey, Bracken.
She's had her tea and now has nobody to rub her belly. Despite
I
the
was
fact
going to
we-
ask what was making her outraged today, but
It's the fact that she is unwilling to compromise on rooms and come to me where I would happily rub her belly. But she's sitting in the hall yelling for a belly rub there.
Really? Mm. Ainsley.
Yay!
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good. I had a really long walk across Edinburgh with Frankie earlier today, which was lovely.
Good.
And thank you for the beautiful apron.
You're very welcome.
So yellow, and I love it.
can we see
We may
this
have had a
beautiful apron?
I can go get it.
Yes, show and tell. Show and tell.
inside and form helping us. So yeah, Frankie and I have a little foodie message thread going with Ainsley, and we bought her an apron. It's been running for 2 years and a half now. Called Penny Dreadful.
I was pleased that I managed to get out and get outside during daylight today. That was exciting. I managed
It's
to not
so
get like
yellow.
It's so yellow.
It's wonderful and yellow, and it has an
Yay.
adorable patch that I
Yay.
need to find a place to put. I think it's going to go here.
Mm.
But I should like turn my screen around so I could stand further away. That would be better. Look. Oh, look, there's a really shiny mirror behind me.
Yay.
Look, it's a very yellow apron. And I
It's a
think
good
I'm gonna
look.
put this here,
Nice.
but I haven't decided yet.
what's the patch say?
It says Penne Dreadful with penne.
That's wonderful.
It's
Adorable.
yeah.
And also, Sham, congratulations on getting outside during daylight. That's an accomplishment right now, I think. I haven't done that in a while.
I keep like, it's now light until kind of 4, right? So it should be possible to like notice that it's lunchtime and think, oh, let's go outside now. Except that I keep going down rabbit holes, and then suddenly it's dark, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
My general approach is like, oh shit, it's getting dark. I should have been outside ages ago.
Is there even a point anymore?
And and then I'm like, no, Ainsley, it's good to go outside anyway. even if the sun
I
has
did
already
that
gone
yesterday.
to bed.
I did that yesterday. It was getting dark and it was snowing, and I was like, "Fuck it! I'll go to the shop. I need to buy birdseed and something." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll turn into a walk." It didn't. It was cold, and I had all that wet sleet in my face. So I just went to the shop and back. I was like, "This is not okay."
I managed to turn it into a walk, a long walk actually, by like calling a friend. Now I
that
have
helps.
like a focus. I have a purpose. I'm just going to keep wandering until we get off there. It's good.
Is it approaching story time?
Is
It might
Frankie
be.
not coming? Does that mean we need another replacement Katie?
I think so.
Uh-oh.
Zach.
Yes.
It's story time.
It's story time.
I think it's story time.
Do we need a quick recap? Are we okay today? I think we're okay.
You know that I'm going to answer. I always want a recap, but I don't need a recap. I just like recaps. So, like, don't do it if it's just for me.
Do the very rapid recap.
But, like, they're so fun.
I'm on Team Ainsley with that. Recaps are fun even when I don't need them.
I know, right?
Yep. Agreed.
Also, what if someone from the catch-up crew didn't have time to listen to the first one and they need a recap?
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay.
I know they're
Okay.
recorded, so they have no excuses. But what if they do?
Maybe Frankie, or I won't say Frankie will mess up. She won't mess up the numbers. Okay, I will mute
Somebody
you
can
all.
stumble upon it just randomly,
Muting. Okay, so Cyrano Part 3. Yesterday we had the start of the wooing of Cyrano writing Christiane's letters, and it was going very well. This is going to be a quick recap. Until we had the night at the balcony, where, Christiane decided that, no, I will do this myself now. It's okay. It was not okay. Then Cyrano decided to lend him a hand and get involved, and threw all of the beautiful words up at Roxanne, who melted, and Cyrano was like, oh, this is lovely. And then Christiane remembered, oh yes, this is for me, isn't it? Climbed up the jasmine like a bro and gave her a good old snog. So then Friar Dude arrived with a letter, which was from De Guiche, who was going to arrive to marry and profess his love to Roxanne. But Roxanne is smart and decided to read her own version of the letter and bamboozle the friar, and he very quickly was marrying the two of them. Outside, De Guiche was arriving because, oh yes, we forgot that Roxanne had encountered De Guiche early when he said they were going to send them off to war the next day. She tried to talk him out of it. So then De Guiche was arriving, but Cyrano interfered, where he was the man from the moon, and told him all about his 4 ways to get to the moon, which was very distracting, and worked well until De Guiche realized the ruse was up when the happy couple came out, and decided that he would send them to the war anyway. And so yesterday ended up with our titular Cyrano and Christiane heading to war. I will also take this point to note that I'm partly doing this because Frankie, I thought, needed a week off, because to give you all a hint behind the scenes, she probably puts like a good hour's work in a day outside of Storytime, doing all the video stuff and the prepping for that night and the blah, blah, blah. So I know you are all very good at like showing appreciation and putting your money in the tip jar. But if any of you felt like bombarding her with, video messages of how much Storytime has meant to you or anything along those lines, I'm sure that more things would always be appreciated by her. Just FYI. So, all right, Kitty Winkles and friends and countrymen and assorted other misfits. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I will sip some water and then begin. Chapter 6, Easing the Pain. Hunger. It sharpens all the senses, like a razor sharpening a poet's quill. After a fortnight without food, even in the dreary rain and drifting smoke, daylight hurts the eyes. The squeal of rats, the scrape of a blade being sharpened. They grate on the ear and on the nerves. The smell of death mixed with the distant cooking fires of the enemy are a double torment, and even a fellow soldier reeling past, dizzy with hunger, inflicts pain with his bony elbows. Nerves are strung out to breaking point. Halt! Who goes there? The siege of Arras went catastrophically wrong. No sooner had the French encircled the city than the Spanish encircled them. The besiegers were besieged, and trapped between the city wall and this hoop of Spanish steel, they skirmished and starved, starved and skirmished. The company of guards under the command of Casteljalot were all boys of noble Gascon families, raised on pheasant and burgundy. Now they dined on rats and nettles, on sparrows and roots. They pined for Gascony and for their sweethearts and mothers. Among them was Christian de Novelette, pining for Roxane, his almost wife. His memories of that last night in Paris were sweet confusion. Now and then a question surfaced slowly through his brain, like a goldfish sipping air. Why had they begun the evening at loggerheads and ended it married? Why had she wept over Cyrano's words? And when Christian got home, if he got home, would she settle for kisses rather than pretty words? There were practical concerns too. Where did she want to live? How much did she need as an allowance? He would have liked to write to her and ask, but here he sat, trapped between brick and steel. No mail could possibly get through. Instead, he hid from hunger and longing under a blanket of sleep. Halt! Who goes there? Musket fire from the Spanish lines brought the sentries to their toes, and they peered out into the rainy fields at a disturbance among the wheat. Someone was running bent double through the southern crop, raising a fine spray of water drops, while musket balls shattered the ears of grain to right and left. Don't fire! Lebret called to the sentry. Don't fire, it's only Cyrano. He ran forward as far as he dared to slap his friend and shower him with insults and reproaches. You perfect fool, man. Why must you do it? Where have you been? As if I didn't know. I've been worried sick. Are you wounded? No. The Spaniards are getting much better at missing me. I've given them plenty of practice. Lebret clucked like an old turkey. The boys are starving. Have you fetched us some food at least? Cyrano shook the rainwater off his cape. I've just been out to the post. I need to travel light. You're a lunatic. You do realize that, don't you? Out to post indeed. Lebret knew about Cyrano's forays through the Spanish lines, the insane risks he took, the danger he courted simply to post a wad of pages, day by day, to the woman waiting in Paris. I promised her he would write. Yes, but every day? Running a finger over the front of his friend's jacket, Lebret creamed mud off the woolen cloth. Before dawn each day, to his friend's dismay and despair, Cyrano slipped out of camp and wormed his way along hollow hedges in the furrows of ploughed fields, over dry stone walls and through bogs. He crept under the very noses of the Spanish troops, crawled through the ashes of their campfires under the guy ropes of their tents. He borrowed their horses and fought their patrols, just to reach some outlying village or a coaching inn and deposit his latest parcel of words. Where are you going now? Called Lebret as Cyrano plunged away through the camp. To write another letter, of course, said Cyrano. Finding a soldier asleep in his path, he went to step over him, then paused. It was Christian, pale as death, but still as beautiful as the seraphim. She could always read the old ones, Lebret called after him, confident of being ignored. Cyrano replied quietly so as not to wake the boy. If the letters stopped coming, she would think harm had come to him. If only she knew. The letters are to reassure her as much as anything. But it was not true. He wrote letters as an army surgeon lets blood, to relieve fever, sickness, delirium. Squeezed between Arras and the Spanish, between survival and death, his thoughts built up inside him until he was fit to explode. The only service he could do Roxanne was to keep her young husband safe. And yet the boy was starving, along with the rest of the Gascon cadets. Cyrano hated himself for the plight his friends were in. He hated himself too, for writing love letters to another man's wife, even if he did sign them Christian. And yet, while he could vent the steam of his unrequited love, he could salve his scalded soul just enough to bear the pain. And so every moment he was not scavenging for food, skirmishing with the Spanish, posting letters, or tending the wounded. He sat writing, 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 wearing out a forest of quills, employing an ocean of ink. He wrote so as to fill his head with Roxanne and empty his bursting heart of its need for her. The months he had spent with Christian had made him as fond of the boy as he might have been of a younger brother. In fact, he found himself loving Christian on behalf of Roxanne, hoarding food scraps for him, checking over his musket, watching his back. Christian's love for his absent wife was dogged and true, and he could not be blamed for his beauty any more than Cyrano could be blamed for being born ugly. An hour later, Lebret came to find him. "The boys are in a bad way, Cyrano. Come and put some heart into them. Castelgelot has tried. I've tried, but they think of nothing but their empty bellies. If the Spanish mount an attack now, I think—" Cyrano seemed to emerge from somewhere far away. "Today will bring an end, I think, Lebret. I sense it. Either we'll eat or we'll die." But he rose slowly and walked over to the barn where the cadets were bivouacked. They looked like so many dead chickens hanging on a butcher's stool, too puny and meatless for anyone to buy. Their eyes, big in their sunken faces, made them look childlike, and like little boys they were sulky and whining, in need of their mothers and their mothers' cooking. "I'm so hungry I could eat my boots." "Fillet of shoe sole. I've tried it. I'm so hungry my ears are rumbling. My legs are as weak as the Paris bear. When I try to get up, the world spins around." "The world always spins, you fool. Have you only just noticed?" said Cyrano brightly. "She's trying to throw us off her back into the dark. You just have to hang on all the tighter." "I say we should mutiny. Let's eat the generals at least. They can't taste worse than rat." Cyrano could almost see the despair creeping among them like grey mice, nibbling into their frail reserves of strength. He caught the fifer's eye, laid a finger against his own prodigious nose, then began to sing. The fifer took up the familiar Gascon tune. "Dream, child of mine, wherever tonight you sleep, of Gascon hills all fleecy white with sheep. The cowbells clamour through the evening field, and like your eyes the daytime flowers are sealed. The nightingale is singing in a tree across the cradling vales of Gascony, and all its songs are lullabies for thee, that wherever you sleep you dream of me." The words trod down their complaints like wet grass. The fife's sweetness pierced them through and through. They sat transfixed, tears forming on their sore eyelids as miraculously as dew. "Oh, very good, Cyrano," said Castelgelot reprovingly. "Now you've got them reduced to tears." "Just lifting the pain higher, Commander, from their stomachs to their hearts. And if you want to see spirits—" Cyrano snatched up a drum and made to signal the alert, but Castelgelot needed no proof of his cadet's courage. He had had plentiful opportunity to see it at work. In fact, it was a volley of Spanish rifle fire that brought the cadets to their feet. A rider was approaching. It was their colonel, the Comte de Guiche, still demon-like in his black cloak, the white lace frothing below his chin like the foam on a rabid dog. Look at him, muttered Lebret. At least you can use a peacock to make pens. He's starving too, remember, for all his lace, said Cyrano mildly. And seeing the surprise on Lebret's face, added, he is a Gascon like us, when all is said and done. Around them, the cadets began to groan and spit at the sight of their colonel, whose appearance never seemed to presage anything but bad luck. But Cyrano hissed at them, quick, boys, suavity in all things, put on a good show. And so, like schoolchildren hearing the teacher's steps, they dredged themselves in their belongings up off the floor, crammed on their hats, lit their pipes, and lounged. They lounged like lizards in hot sunshine, lazily dealing out a pack of cards or reading a book, picking their teeth, crossing their ankles, tossing dice. They were a picture of scruffy nonchalance, so at ease with themselves and so marvellous that a comte wearing Belgian lace and Lucca wool warranted not so much as a bored glance. The law unto themselves, that was the company of guards, smooth as best butter. Dubiously, the comte regarded them down the length of his paper-thin nose. He was not fooled. He knew from personal experience the hunger pangs that were gripping at them. They were almost admirable, these wayward Gascons who answered to no one but Castelgelot or the firebrand de Bergerac. Should he praise them, perhaps, or was it too late in the day for that? I know what you think of me, he chose to say, reining in his horse, but I find no cause for pride in threadbare jackets and torn trousers. What do you use your panaches for? Pipe cleaners? Look at you, no better than scarecrows. I see you're carrying less lace today yourself, Comte, observed Cyrano. Where's your scarf of office? Did you have the bad luck to lose it? De Guiche looked Cyrano over as though he were a piece of furniture in need of reupholstering. As you know very well, I led a charge yesterday through the Spanish lines. My scarf drew attention to my rank, and I found myself the target of a dozen Spanish blades. So I cast it aside, et voila, I was anonymous again, free to fight a mere 2 Spaniards at a time. The cadets still gave a low derisive groan. A real Gascon would have welcomed the extra attention, said someone in an undertone. I am a Gascon, born and bred, retorted De Guiche. Cyrano seemed unconvinced. Surely not. Gascons are all insane. There's far too much cold logic in you, sir. The comte pursed his lips. What purpose the grand gesture when one's men are relying on one, he said priggishly. The best time for bravado, I'd have thought. Anyway, you could have always gone back with your scarf afterwards. De Guiche smiled serenely. Then clearly you do not realize how far my charge had broken through. I was deep behind enemy lines. My scarf is well and truly lost, but it was lost truly and well. It can't be reached. No more than cheese can be fetched down from the moon, Captain de Bergerac. Only then, with a flourish such as a toreador offers a bull, did Cyrano pull something white and lacy from inside his jacket and toss it to De Guiche. It was, of course, the scarf of office. The cadets roared with delight. The comte's bubble was pricked. To their surprise, the humiliation barely dented his haughty smile. I am glad you and your men hold your lives so cheap. No, truly I am. You will regret my news so much less. At last, the click of dice, the slap of cards, the clink of gambling money fell silent. Lebret found himself thinking of Cyrano's words. Today we shall either eat or die. De Guiche had spies. Like a spider feeling the vibrations of its web through spread feet, he operated a network of French and Spanish informers. He might not win the war for France, but at least he did not struggle from day to day in blind ignorance. Thanks to a certain Spanish spy in his pay, He knew, for instance, that the Spanish were planning an all-out attempt to break the French hold on Arras. He knew the exact point at which they would attack too, because he had told them where and when to do it. With the help of that self-same Spanish spy, he had advised them to launch a massive attack on the Eastern Gate, held only by a platoon of young yokels, the company of guards. Time is crucial. It's a diversion, you see, to allow another regiment to break out and reach supplies. I need you Gascons to fight for as long as you are able and to the last man. You may take it as a compliment, if you like, that I directed the Spanish to attack just here, that I chose the Garde Noble to make this noble sacrifice. Hold the line. They were to be sand castles, staving off an incoming tide, bones to keep savage dogs occupied for a while, matches to fend off the dark. De Guiche was ordering them to die. He threw the scarf of office round his shoulders and tilted his head in defiant triumph. Cyrano met his eyes. Instantly, the scent of jasmine was there in the stinking barn with them, the taste of communion wafers, the murmur of a friar blessing a marriage, a bar of light streaming from an open door. And so you have your revenge, said Cyrano quietly, the last resort of a bitter man. If hunger is sharp, jealousy is sharper. It gouges the heart out of a man's ribcage. It narrows his field of vision into a single dark tunnel. De Guiche, too, had loved and lost Roxane. He, too, needed to vent his sadness and loss, and being without Cyrano's gift of poetry, was reduced to this, to loosening the blackness within him onto Cyrano, Christiane, and all the Garde Noble. Oddly, now it was done, there seemed no lessening of the dark, no relief from the regret, except now it was tinged with shame. It's true that I bear you no love, Captain, said De Guiche, but my decision was a military one. The courage of the cadets is unequaled, and sometimes war calls for martyrs. Then Cyrano bowed deeply, sweeping the ground with the plume of his hat. In that case, on behalf of the guards, I thank you, Colonel, the honor of dying gloriously. Chapter 7. Last Post. Sound the muster! Start building a barricade! Clear the ground for fighting! Somewhere a bugle blew and the company of cadets sprang into action. Those puny chickens, too meatless to make broth, were suddenly transformed into musketeers. Running, labouring, shouting, swearing, loading muskets, making ready for battle. They voiced no regrets at their fate, except that they must die with empty stomachs. They who could have defeated the Spanish single-handed, given a cartload of rations and a keg of Gascon wine. Cyrano, having seen to the construction of a barricade 5 meters high, returned to his solitary corner of camp where, on the tailboard of a broken cart, he wrote all his letters to Roxane. He tore up the one he had begun and spread out fresh paper in front of him. One last letter to write, his letter of farewell. It did not take long. The words had long since been written inside his head. At the sound of the bugle, the right phrases had mustered inside his head, ready and unafraid. But such was the height of his love that the looping letters could barely contain it. Such was love's drag on his heart, like the moon dragging on the sea, that the ocean of tears inside him overspilled and splashed the page he was writing. As he reached the end, his quill traced, without his permission, the first letter of his own name. He stopped himself only just in time. Oh, to sign it Cyrano, to make confession, as a dying man makes confession to a priest, leaving his conscience clear, to sign his own letter with his own name. Now and then, here and there, one of the young men round about him would stop work and stand immobile, feeling death breathe cold on his neck, brushed by a memory, a regret, a fear. When Cyrano found Christian de Novelette, he was standing stock still, arms around his chest, rocking a little to and fro. Cyrano placed a hand on his sleeve. "Roxanne," said Christian, "I know. I should write something. All the things I meant to tell her. I wish... I thought you might," said Cyrano peremptorily, and reached inside his tunic. The letter he produced was not so large or so elaborate, perhaps, as the colonel's scarf for office, but it was just as great a proof of Cyrano's bravery. Too much to hope that Christiane would simply fold it away into a pocket. No one's eyes but hers ought to have seen the words it contained. But of course de Novelette wanted to read the letter he was supposed to have written to his wife, wanted to see what brilliant feathers Cyrano had plucked from the air in order to clothe his own raw, wordless passion. "I'd have thought you had letters of your own to write," he murmured, blue eyes flickering to and fro over the lines of writing. Gradually they widened with wonder. "These things you said, how did you know? Or did you even guess?" "Oh, we poets, you know," said Cyrano breezily, pulling used quills from his various pockets and letting them fall, so that the wind caught them and carried them flickering away across the muddy ground. "Something for every eventuality and any occasion. Weddings, funerals, christenings." And still Christiane did not fold the letter away. "What's this mark? Here, in the corner. This circle here." Cyrano examined the hangings on his sabre, checked the blade's edge. "It's a tear stain. You shed tears," exclaimed Christiane accusingly. A wave of the hand, a casual shrug. "Well, you know poets, we get carried away. We're like actors, our roles sometimes get the better of us. You shed tears," said Christiane again. Perhaps that letter C standing alone at the foot of the letter reminded him of a man beneath a balcony, body arched with intensity, pressing his lips to the jasmine leaves. Or perhaps he had known all along and simply not chosen to admit it. "You love Roxanne." "It's not death," babbled Cyrano confusedly. "That's not so very terrible in itself. But never to see her again, that's more than more than you could. You love Roxanne." "No, yes, of course, who wouldn't? Loved her all along." "But she loves you, man. You know that. God knows you've seen it in her, the way she looks at you." Doubt stood between them like a third person. The letters blew and fluttered between Christiane's gloved fingers. Cyrano went to snatch it back, but Christiane crumpled it inside his fist. Perhaps he would have destroyed it, but for a sudden confusion of shouts, shots, and astonishment beyond the barricade. "A coach!" called the sentry. "Shall we fire on it?" The coachman, standing up on his footboard, legs braced, whip in one hand, reins clutched to his chest, was bellowing with all his might. "In the king's name! In the king's name! Make way!" He had to have driven clear through 20 miles of Spanish-controlled countryside, and yet there was no mistaking his French accent. Antoine de Guiche, already mounted, ready to leave the Gascons to their fate, hesitated. His spies had told him nothing of this. In the king's name? What did it mean? A gap was pulled in the barricade, almost wide enough, and the coach sped through, scattering piles of brushwood and overturning an ammunition crate. Its curtains were drawn and its roof strung with ivy and twigs from careering through woodland. Foam splashed from the horses' nostrils. They were dark with sweat. "Form a line, prepare to fire a salute," cried Castagnolo, unable to guess what grandee or court official had run the gauntlet of Spanish lines in the king's name. De Guiche's horse jibed, uncertain of its rider's wishes. The coach came to a halt. "You come in service of the king?" he shouted at its closed curtains. Then the door flew open, the steps folded outwards, and the reply came, "Yes, in the service of the King of Love." A woman's voice? Like a kiss, it astounded 4 youthful hearts. It brought blushes to the cheeks of 50 hell-raisers, who gaped open-mouthed as Roxane Robineau stepped down from the carriage. Christian de Novelette felt his head empty of words and his heart fill with adoration. De Guiche saw hell open its jaws to cackle at him. He had just funneled death and mayhem into this acre of land, only to find his love standing at its heart. Cyrano saw nothing. He was too afraid of what he might feel if he turned and saw Roxane's face again. Roxane herself was bright and glittering and exultant. She was Cinderella emerging from her pumpkin coach. She made the camp her stage, her arrival a grand entry to rapturous applause. She was just a little too devil-may-care, cheerful, tossing aside the war, the Spanish, the danger, like dresses whose colours she had tired of. "It's time this little siege came to an end, gentlemen. It has really gone on for far too long. Ah, there you are, cousin Cyrano." Cyrano turned. "How?" was all he could say. No one knew better than he did the difficulty of breaking through the Spanish lines. Roxane fluttered her hands. "Oh, it was easy. Every time we were stopped, I simply said that I was on the way to see my lover. The Spanish are such romantics." De Guiche darted towards her. "Yes, but you must get away from here. You must go now, lady, in a few minutes, in an hour less." Wrong voice. "Yes, Roxane, you must," said Cyrano. Even Christian wanted to silence her brilliant chatter, preferably with kisses. But Roxane was far beyond the reach of reason, drunk on the exhilaration of reaching her destination, achieving her goal. The future had receded to the size of the pupils in Christian's eyes. She was immovable. The cadets didn't help. They were exultant at the sight of a pretty face. Here was an audience for them to impress. Roxane lent purpose to being brave. So they fetched her a drum to sit on, brushed off their clothes and spat on their boots to polish them. They laughed at her jokes and sighed at the romance of her story. There was no breaking through to cold reason. Cyrano and de Guiche glanced at each other like men cut off by the same tide. "What I would like now is a leg of chicken and a glass of Burgundy, if you please, gentlemen," announced Roxane. The cadets threw up their hands and mopped and mowed like glove puppets, regretting they had nothing to give her, nothing at all. "Well, what are you waiting for?" she went on. "Tell my coachman to serve dinner." Up until that moment, the only thing anyone had noticed about the coachman was his huge Parisian waistline, untouched by famine. But as they watched him, apparently dismantling the coach piece by piece, they did see something faintly familiar about him, about his brioche-shaped head, his omelette-coloured hair, his jelly-mould belly, his trifling cherry nose. He smelt sweet too, sweet as in petit four and hot chocolate, sweet as in profiteroles and almond tarts. "Of what are coaches made, sirs? Of cakes and wines and clementines, of oyster soup and cantaloupe, of sausages and mutton pies, and galantines all in disguise, that what coaches are made of, sirs." Bad verse and good cooking. A great shout went up of "Rajeunot!" as the poet pastry cook drew lengths of sausage from the handle of his whip, pull chickens from under his chair, baguettes from his trouser legs, pastries from inside his hat, cheeses from the hubcaps, and a bedroll filled with 17 assortments of pie. His shoe pastry had been reduced to the consistency of volcanic ash and came raining down on 20 upturned faces, where it stuck like plaster of Paris, death masks made of sugar. Cyrano seized his opportunity. He caught Christian by the wrist and pulled him aside. A word. Isn't she marvellous? Have a quail's egg, said Christian, finally infected by Roxanne's feverish excitement. About the letters. This one, you mean? Christian touched the breast of his jacket. And the others. Others? You wrote a little more often than you might suppose. What do you mean? Since we got here, you mean? I wrote. How often? The grey-brown eyes simply blinked back at him. What? Once a month? The corner of Cyrano's mouth twitched with guilt. Once a week? Cyrano winced. Twice a week? 3 times? Bon Dieu, every day? Twice sometimes. Cyrano said it so quietly that Christian thought he must have imagined it. Well, so you couldn't post any of them, could you? Anything's possible. Quicker than a cough, he said it. Anyway, if she should remain. But then the party washed back between them. Cadets with mouthful of food and brains soused with wine. And Christian de Novelette was left yet again with the feeling that he had been hoodwinked. He turned and began trying in earnest to persuade Roxanne back into her coach. What possessed you to come? He groaned as she resisted every plea. You did, of course. Your wonderful letters. It was not what Christian wanted to hear. Oh, my love, those letters came at me like shooting stars, like a hail of meteorites. They crazed the moon. They split me into atoms. Make her be quiet. Make her stop before she said something that she cannot unsay. Oh, Christian, they scoured me naked. They burned away all that nonsense of looking and wanting and puppy dogs. I saw deep, deep, deep down into you. Those letters, they were your soul speaking to my soul, weren't they? They were the essence of everything that matters between two people who are going to spend their lives together. The things that matter, the things that last. Now, when he needed her to be frivolous, she was all too much in earnest. A great calm seemed to invade her. Forehead to forehead, looking into each other's souls. Your letters taught me, and I learned. Christian, oh, I did learn. Every letter you sent opened a window on some new lovely vista. They were just letters. What you wrote, it's true. Life's a candle burning down. It's lit, it's gone. No more faces, no more kisses, no more glare and flare. Just two souls clinging together for eternity. I'll love you forever, Christian, more than any woman ever loved a man, thanks to those letters. Don't say it. For God's sakes, you don't know what you're saying. I don't want to be loved like that. I just wanted. What? An adoring silly girl gazing into your blue, blue eyes hanging on your sleeve? Oh, yes. She laughed out loud at the thought of anything so trivial between them. Listen, Roxanne, suppose in this war, supposing I got injured, scarred, disfigured, what would I care? I'm glad you're so beautiful. God knows I am. But I'm not in love with your face anymore, dearest, or your golden curls, or the way your throat's. No, I could almost wish you were ugly, just so that I could prove it to you. It's the man inside that I love. The man who wrote those. No more about those damn letters. He wanted to cover her mouth with his hand. He wanted to silence her. He wanted to tear in papery shreds the time they had spent apart, the air that separated her mouth from his. And those letters, those damned letters. Breaking away, he pushed and elbowed his way through the press of drunken comrades until he found Cyrano loading muskets behind the barricade. He went at him like a madman, hitting him open-handed about the shoulders and the head. You and your damn letters. She doesn't love me anymore. It's you she loves. She as good as told me so. Cyrano stumbled backwards, taken unawares. No glib response would come, no joke with which to fend off Christian. His heart shrank to the size of a dying star and exploded again in a flash of blinding pain. She said that. She said that looks mean nothing, only souls, only damned. Was it possible? Could such things happen outside dreams? Could a creature so grotesque, so lonely, so lonesome to himself truly win the love of Roxanne Robiner? To add to his confusion, the opening volleys of the Spanish attack instantly broke over the camp like a lightning storm. The deafening crackle of muskets followed by a deep rumble of cannon fire. Cyrano took Christian by the shoulders and tried to hold on until they both grew calmer. You're wrong, lad. You must be misunderstood. But Christian only grabbed his wrist and began to drag him back towards the ruins of the coach. Ask her. Ask her yourself, why don't you? Buglers were summoning the cadets to arms. It was like wading against the tide to recross the camp, but Christian would not let go of Cyrano's wrist. I'll be loved for what I am or not at all. Let's find out, shall we, which of us she truly prefers. It will be you, Cyrano protested, trying to wrench his wrist free without actually brawling with Christian. The marriage was after dark. No witnesses, no wedding night. It can be undone, it can. But it will be you, Christian. She'll choose you. They collided unexpectedly with the Comte de Guiche. Shouldn't the rats have gone by now, Comte? Snarled Cyrano. The ship's sinking fast. But de Guiche had thrown aside his black cloak and his black jacket was unfastened, spilling white lace and lawn cotton. The Gascon in me has gotten the upper hand, he said with a grimace. It might have almost been a smile. I've decided to stay and fight alongside the company of guards. The passing cadet stopped and stared at him, then ran off shouting, De Guiche is staying! The black rat's a Gascon after all! A moment later, the boy returned with an offering of food for this newfound Gascon hero. But de Guiche sneered contemptuously at the half-chewed chicken leg thrust under his nose. I would rather die hungry than eat second-hand food, he declared. And there were more cries of, a Gascon! A true Gascon! Insane after all, said Cyrano with bemused admiration. And the two men's eyes met a second time. They had more in common, after all, than simply Gascon blood, and an imminent appointment with death. My spies told me about your daily excursions to the post, murmured de Guiche, and you call me insane. The sentries shouted that Spanish infantry were advancing through the wheat field. There were snipers in the trees too, and the Spanish artillery. Men were starting to find their range. A shell exploded at the corner of the barn and its roof sagged, loosing an avalanche of burning thatch. But Christian had finally dragged Cyrano in front of Roxanne. Cyrano has something important to say to you, he panted. Then, without staying to hear the outcome, he let the tide race of troopers sweep him back towards the barricades. Important, said Roxanne. Christian, come back. Not at all. You know what he's like. always making something out of nothing. Roxanne, what you said to him just now, that I would love him forever. Doesn't he believe me? Is that what's wrong? Cyrano swallowed hard. Or that I would love him even if... Confronted with Cyrano's troubled face, she let the sentence peter out. It's all right. You can say it. Even if he was ugly, like me. She seemed surprised. You? Ugly? You're not ugly, cousin. We're just Cyrano. But yes. Even ugly, I would love him. How can a really good man ever be ugly? There was a crack as if some planet on the far outskirts of the universe had broken open and spilled its golden yolk down the alleyways of space. Cyrano did not know whether he had heard it inside or outside his head. His pupils contracted and he could not clearly see. You're not ugly. You're just Cyrano. He could make no sense of the burning straw around his feet, only that it had burned away his shadow, the shadow of his profile. What was that noise? Roxanne was asking. Oh God, Roxanne, listen. If what you say is true, there's something I have to tell you. A commotion by the barricades. Castel Jalot calling for assistance. About the letters, about the whole, said Cyrano. Lebrère pushing against the throng, his hand on Cyrano's sleeve, his whisper in Cyrano's ear. At the center of the universe, the devil laughed shrilly and blew out the sun. Yes, Cyrano? What were you going to say? Asked Roxanne. What? Oh, nothing. Nothing. What happened over yonder? What was that scream? Never mind. Come away, Roxanne. It was over. A minute before, happiness had been born to Cyrano like a son. For a moment it had breathed, reached out, touched him, cried. Now it was dead, and nothing can ever breathe life back into the dead. The Spanish drums heralded an all-out attack. A group of cadets had been trying to carry some unwieldy burden past Roxanne, wrapped in a blanket to prevent her seeing it. But they had to set it down now and run back to the barricades as fast as their legs would carry them. Castel Jalot had his saber raised, ready to signal the counterattack. Cyrano was dimly aware that he was neglecting his duty to attend on this woman, this cousin of his, this widow. As the blanket fell open and Roxanne glimpsed Christiane's body, she threw herself down on top of him, tugging his hair, ripping open his jacket, searching for his wound like a looter pillaging. She shouted his name in his face, Christiane! Then she turned on Cyrano, her hands pulling at the cuffs of his boot. He's alive! Cyrano! He's not dead! Make him live! Say he's not dead! And he was not. Though the tiny hole in his jacket was over his heart, it had left Christiane de Novelette breath and time enough to speak one last word. Roxanne. It sent her into a frenzied search for water, brandy, wadding, miracles, and while she searched, Cyrano swiftly dipped his head down close to Christiane's. His great nose stirred the softness of that curly blonde hair. I told her everything, Christiane, and it's you she loves, he whispered. I swear it. Beyond the barricades, Castel Jalot was shouting commands to the musketeers. Load! Ram! Aim! Fire! And when the enemy was too close for musketry, there came the order to draw swords. But in a place as still and black as the heart of a cyclone, Christiane let go the smallest of breaths, and his blue eyes rolled upwards, as if to some balcony far, far overhead. Roxanne, her face pressed to his, felt it grow as chill as candle wax. Her fingers closed on the fabric of his shirt, trying to drag him back into the world of the living. A fold of paper pricked the back of her hand. She drew out the letter of farewell. Battle broke up against the barricade like a great wave smashing at a wrecked ship, breaking its back. Frantically, Cyrano beckoned Ragueneau from his hiding place under the coach. You must get her away. I'm trusting her into your care. But Roxane seemed hardly aware of her surroundings as she gently unfolded the letter, noting the blood that had stained one corner, even the tear stain that had watermarked the page. He is dead, she said incredulously. The finest, the most glorious of men. Without a doubt. All tenderness, all passion. Was there ever a truer love, cousin? Never, chère madame. And you were all in all to him. He is dead, she said again, tasting the truth of it for the first time, fell forward in a faint. Her head struck Cyrano's breast where he was crouched in front of her. For a moment his arms closed round her. So am I too, he told her in his thoughts, because now you are lost to me forever. Then he lifted her bodily into the battered coach and slammed shut the door. You all okay?
Oh!
Sorry, we're supposed to clap, aren't we? But...
Okay.
You know, you read it really well, and we're all like, after.
No. I'm almost sorry, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I thought Frankie was sadistic with her cliffhangers.
That's the end of the chapter. It's not a cliffhanger. I mean, not one that I made.
It's not yours.
It's not the end of the book, which would be
yes,
evil.
Oh, it all still seems so dumb.
Poor Christiane. Oh, poor all of them.
Okay.
We read this in middle school drama when I was a kid, and it was definitely played as like a, this is why you should be honest when you're dating.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, because like so often, you know, we read Romeo and Juliet in school as if it's this grand romance when really it's just a lot of teachable moments, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, this is how not to do it.
Yeah.
Silly teenagers are silly.
Maybe communicate before you kill yourself.
But
Ooh, what was that lyric?
Oh, for Romeo and Juliet, it's one of the things where it's like the lesson of maybe you should communicate before you kill yourself.
If only they had WhatsApp, would have been much easier.
But would Cyrano have composed his love letters over WhatsApp?
I was thinking Romeo and Juliet for some reason, but also yes.
No, I know we were talking about Romeo and Juliet, but I'm you know.
So there is actually
I want the modern reboot.
There's a modern, like, nice, friendly teen, like, interpretation of Cyrano that's on Netflix that Liz recommended and is very charming and less depressing. That I can't remember the name of, but I will post the suggestion in on the Storytime group tomorrow. Yes, it's delightful and gay.
I missed most of that because my internet cut out. But
There's a gay teenage Cyrano modern interpretation, and you should all watch it.
Oh, exciting!
You don't even have to shout make it gayer because they already did.
Oh. Yeah, well, I actually don't know the story, so I don't know how this ends.
No, neither do I.
I do know this one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Sean's double face palm when she showed up.
Yeah.
Like you literally just buried your face in your hands. You're like, this is clearly a terrible plan.
It was very clearly a terrible plan.
It's a very terrible plan.
You would have thought we'd seen the worst plan like already in this, but she did manage to make an even worse plan.
Yes.
Well, that pastry chef, that's really the enabler. Yeah. How is he there?
And now, how is he a coachman? And when they say dismantling the coach, like how much of the coach was made of food?
And more importantly, how are they going to write it out?
This is also
Exactly. Like were the
Extremely
wheels like wheels
importantly.
of cheese? Because
Zach, when are you going to make us a coach of food?
Ooh, maybe next week, not today.
All right.
That's the very difficult to organize for tomorrow finale food.
Yeah, you definitely need planning.
Yeah, I did not think of finale things. Feathers and caps. Have your panache.
Frog bread.
Frog bread. Yes, octopus bread. Yeah, cool. We're cool. It's fine.
3 tube chicken legs.
Yes, the easy approach would be chicken leg and a glass of Bordeaux.
I did not hate the geesh in this section.
I thought I did a good job of like humanizing all of the warring lovers who are actually not warring. There's a bit of empathy between them, which is like
Yeah.
kind of cool. Yeah. It's like it's easier to not hate someone when they're not being like actively smarming, like all over Roxanne in this case.
Yes. Yes, he's less smarmy as a general, I think.
It's a nice low bar, less smarmy.
I mean, like, you know, the whole thing of like if you expect nothing, you'll always be pleasantly surprised. I think De Guiche did a really, really good job of like giving us a massive, massive low. So from here on out, he can like only really improve.
Yeah.
He's not making our skin crawl, so it is an improvement on previous encounters.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Oh, yeah.
Also, like, respect for Christiane for kind of being like, if she doesn't actually love like me, then this is a ridiculous thing to be happening.
Yeah.
I mean, like, a little bit late, but still a good realization to have.
She was surprisingly good about that.
Yeah.
He's a nice boy, really. Just
Yeah.
I
not
mean,
good at work.
Cyrano literally has his blessing in a strange kind of a way.
Yes.
He's not like trying to like be super possessive, be like, no, I married her, damn it, she's mine. I was like, well, the wedding was basically a sham, so
Yeah.
I think we can forgive him some poor decision making.
Yeah, I think like oh hey, we're married now, just because I don't want smarming that smarm face smarming over me is like it's kind of a lot.
Hello, Rick.
That didn't really give much time for thinking, decision making. Those cats are having so much fun with those fairy lights.
Yeah.
Oh no, did one of them get you?
Oh no.
Oh no. Anyway, oh, we're still recording.
Oh yes, I should say goodbye to the catch-up crew. Thank you. Catch-up crew. Sorry. Ish. Come back next
No,
time.
you're not.
When. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, catch-up crew. Thank you for listening as always.